Commercial capital. This is the news at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun. Hello and welcome. Tonight, the Senate confirms immediate past Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa as new Defense Minister. House of Representatives asked the federal government to reveal the financiers of terrorism and banditry in Nigeria. The National Economic Council approves 100 billion naira for the rehabilitation of training institutions for police and other security agencies. And the Kremlin says it's wrong to suggest Vladimir Putin rejected U.S. proposal for peace in Ukraine after talks with U.S. negotiators in Moscow.
And on business, Nigeria's economic plans for 2026 take shape as Federal Executive Council approves budget targeting ambitious 4.7% GDP growth.
And on sports news tonight, Germany has been selected to host the UEFA Women's European Championships in 2029, following a vote by UEFA's Executive Committee.
And from the nation's capital, stakeholders converge on Abuja, reiterate call for constitutional backing for local government autonomy.
I will not tolerate any insolence or act of cowardice in the Nigerian army. This is according to the former Chief of Defense Staff, who is the Minister-designate for the Ministry of Defense, General Christopher Musa. General Musa stated this during his confirmation hearing by the Senate. He vows that Nigeria will win the war against terrorism with technology, adequate funding and collaboration among MDAs, underscoring that there will be no room for negotiation with terrorists. Our National Assembly correspondent Gloria Amizoke reports.
Lawmakers reconvene amid an air of anticipation as President Tinubu's nominee is expected to appear before lawmakers in the upper chamber.
This was the resolution.
A correspondence from President Tinubu seeking confirmation of the ministerial nominee is read.
Members from the Northeast.
The Senate relaxed its rules while dissolving into the Committee of the Whole as it admits the former Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, into the chamber. The minister-designate begins with a brief background in his opening remarks.
I am General Christopher Musa, retired, the 18th Chief of Defense Staff, Armed Forces of Nigeria. I want to assure you we're going to work united as we did when I was the Chief of Defense Staff. The important thing is for us to take the ownership of the challenges confronting our dear nation.
As questions began pouring in, lawmakers sought to know how he intends to tackle the issue of terrorism and rescue of the remaining children in captivity.
And how can you assure us that with this nominee or with this nomination that we are sure that you'll be able to work with a team under you to ensure the release of those children and to give Nigeria a better image?
So, sir, we're going to make sure that we do a society approach into addressing this issue of kidnapping of school. No indolence, no act of cowardice will be entertained. We're going to make sure that we follow them critically to see what they are doing from the commanders down to the troops. I was wondering how the general himself was when he's supposed to have his own troops with him. So there are questions that need answering. And I can assure you, sir, we're going to get to the bottom of this. We'll find out what happened, who are those involved, including that one for the children at Maga. Having served 39 years all through my career in the armed forces, we have seen what is going on, we have understood what is going on, and we know what we need.
After a question has been proposed.
Tension, however, rose in the chamber when a lawmaker moved a motion seeking the swift conclusion of the confirmation process. The motion was immediately met with strong resistance as several lawmakers objected, insisting that the nominee must be further interrogated. The chamber quickly became rowdy as senators demanded additional engagement.
Senator, may get to resume your seat.
After minutes of disruption, the Senate President rose, an action signifying a call for order.
If you're a senator, you know this. We have not yet asked him what his response will be to Donald Trump, the President of America. Yeah, it's not just anybody. Chief of Defense Staff, a nominee for a Minister of Defense of a country, and you stand up and say you should take a bow and go, with so many questions on the mouth of Nigerians.
The 58-year-old former CDS, who is not oblivious of the weight of expectation by the lawmakers, is further grilled.
Many distinguished senators remind us that people know where these terrorists are. They know their roots. And in any case, if they didn't know them, how do they negotiate with them? Why are we seeing these bandits with super sophisticated guns, and our officers are confronting them still with AK-47?
There's still a lot of gaps within the armed forces that is also mitigating against them be able to achieve success fully. For whatever reason, we must stop the killings. Nigerians must not be killed, or anyone in Nigeria must not be killed for whatever reason. We assure you that we're going to be very firm in all we are doing. Everywhere we make sure that recruitments are going to be thorough. And again, it brings me back to a database. But it makes it easier. If somebody comes for recruitment and has a number that you can check and see everything is telling you, it makes it a lot easier.
He underscores that negotiations with bandits is unacceptable. The nominee is then asked to take a bow and leave. Subsequently, the Senate approves and confirms the ministerial nominee.
Will the Senate now approve the nomination of General Christopher Kwabi Musa for appointment as Minister of the Government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Those in favor say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Earlier, the Senate passed through second reading the bill seeking to amend the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act to classify kidnapping, hostage-taking as acts of terrorism. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
From the Senate to the Green Chamber, where the House of Representatives is asking that the President's directive to withdraw policemen from VIPs should exclude serving public offices. This was a major debate as the House approved several resolutions from its security debate, which held last week. Part of the resolution of the House is also for terrorism financiers to be publicly named and prosecuted. Our National Assembly correspondent Terry reports.
Members of the House of Representatives settled down in the Committee of the Whole, chaired by the Deputy Speaker, as they consider 54 recommendations from their three-day debate on national security. One of the resolutions seeks speedy trial of terrorists and bandits and wants their sponsors brought to book.
That financiers of terrorism, banditry and kidnapping be publicly named, sanctioned and prosecuted. Terrorism-related prosecution be open, expeditious and transparent. Carried. That the Special Court for Terrorism, Banditry and Kidnapping be established. Carried.
The House wants all security expenditure to be placed on first-line charge for quick disbursements to security agencies. Meanwhile, the presidential directive to withdraw policemen from VIPs is heavily debated as lawmakers call for a clear definition of who a VIP is.
Police officers are being withdrawn from the VIPs, whether governor, whether minister, whether National Assembly members, whoever. They didn't specify. And if we want to amend it, we should think that amendment that not all police officers that are attached to certain category of people should be withdrawn.
Number 15 is not going against the President's directive. We're only saying that the definition of VIP, what the interpretation means, whether public officers, serving public officers, like governors, like CJN, who is in charge of the courts, like speakers, like members, like senators, are exempted.
The chairman of the Committee on National Security, however, believes the presidential directive is in order.
Any advanced country, advanced system, they don't use guns to protect individual and VIPs. It's intelligence gathering technology that protects. So that's why let's go by the president's directives, and we should obey as ordinary citizens that no police escort instead of using this clause. Now the outside will think that we're just doing it for ourselves to protect ourselves as we are scared of something.
I don't believe public servants are very important persons. They are just public servants. For the period they are serving. When they finish serving, they go. So I don't think defining governors, justices of federal courts in the country, and even state courts, and falls under VIP status. So there must be deliberate definition of these status.
With your clear explanations, I think number 15 is okay. I think we can leave it like this. Thank you for as amended.
Other recommendations contained in the resolution include construction of walls for the country's borders, comprehensive auditing and effective tracking mechanism of arms and equipment of security agencies, continuation of weapons mop-up across the country, institution of a national warning system, as well as establishment of a religious protection council, and more. These resolutions are to be transmitted to the Senate for concurrence and onward transmission to the President, state governors, and other relevant institutions for urgent implementation. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
The National Economic Council has approved the sum of 100 billion naira, subject to a final ratification by President Bola Tinubu, for the rehabilitation of training institutions for police and other security agencies across Nigeria. This followed recommendations from the ad hoc committee earlier constituted to assess the state of training institutions for police and security agencies nationwide. At its meeting, held virtually, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima, the National Economic Council also approved the sum of 2.6 billion naira for consultancy services for the project. Our State House correspondent Emperor Simon tells us more.
The 154th meeting of the National Economic Council is holding virtually, and Vice President Kashim Shettima is chairing the meeting from his office at the State House Abuja, with some ministers and aides of the Vice President in attendance.
Obligations reaching up 106 billion naira.
At its 152nd meeting in October, President Bola Tinubu had proposed to the NEC the overhaul and revamp of training institutions for security agencies nationwide. The chairman of the ad hoc committee, saddled with that responsibility, Governor Peter Mbah of Enugu State, in his presentation to Council, underscores the urgency and significance of the condition of the training facilities.
23rd of October, the President, who is not a member of NEC, personally came to NEC to inaugurate the NEC committee on the rehabilitation of the training institutions of our security agencies across the country. That essentially underscores the importance, and it became necessary because the President has approved the recruitment at that time of 30,000 police personnel. And of course, recently, you know that he has even increased that number to 50,000 police personnel, given the state of security in our country.
NEC also took some decisions with regards to polio meningitis and the cost as well as availability of domestic gas in the country.
Between June and November, the committee has met at least 4 times, and essentially to deepen the political commitment and strengthen coordination and ensure that states remain firmly engaged in the national push to interrupt the remaining variant of polio virus transmission.
The Minister of Petroleum has made a presentation on the cost and availability of domestic gas, particularly in the payment of domestic outstanding obligation to gas producers in order to encourage increased production and supply for domestic consumption.
Addressing the meeting, Vice President Shettima charged governors of the 36 states of the Federation to ensure that economic reforms by the state governments translate into clear, measurable improvements on the lives of Nigerians.
Our work today is a demonstration that governance is meaningful only when it improves the lives of the people. Our task is not to admire problems, but to solve them. It is not to explain challenges, but to overcome them. And it is not to hope for progress, but to engineer it with the tools available to us.
Update on the Federation account shows that the excess crude account balance as at November 2025 stood at $525,823.39. Stabilization account is $71,647,494,101.12 naira. And natural resources development account stood at $79,252,769,532.35 naira. From the Presidential Villa, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
In part 2 after the break, the new Nigeria People's Party Rights INEC seeks immediate enforcement of court order over its leadership crisis. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the News at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. The Senate confirms immediate past Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa as new Defense Minister. House of Representatives asks the federal government to reveal the financiers of terrorism and banditry in Nigeria. National Economic Council approves 100 billion naira for the rehabilitation of training institutions for the police and other security agencies. And the Kremlin says it's wrong to suggest Vladimir Putin rejected U.S. proposals for peace in Ukraine after talks with U.S. negotiators in Moscow. In line with the order of the FCT High Court in Abuja restraining the electoral umpire INEC from recognizing or engaging with any faction of the new Nigeria People's Party (NNPP) other than the leadership headed by Dr. Agbo Gilbert Major, the party is asking the Commission to obey the order of the court. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the National Secretary of the party, Comrade Ogini Sunday, says INEC should, as a matter of necessity, upload the Agbo Gilbert and Comrade Ogini Sunday-led National Working Committee as the authentic National Chairman and National Secretary of the party on their official website and restore the original logo and color of the party within 48 hours on receipt of the enrollment order. Justice Bello Kawu, sitting at High Court number 14, Akpo had granted the orders on November the 25th and 27th in two separate ex-party applications filed by the NNPP, which accused a rival faction led by Mr. Ajuju Ahmed and several others of attempting to mislead the Electoral Commission despite existing court judgments affirming the Agbo Major leadership. The National Broadcasting Commission, the NBC, today convened a meeting for practitioners in the broadcast industry in Nigeria. The meeting in Abuja, the first under the new Director General of the Commission, Mr. Charles Ibuebu, was attended by senior management staff, editors, news anchors, and others drawn from broadcast organizations across the country. Highlights of the discussions featured issues around security for institutions and personnel, licensing, broadcast code, media convergence, and the evolving media landscape.
It's a blend of the new and the old in the industry as the Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission convenes this stakeholders engagement with broadcast media representatives in Abuja. This meeting, which is the first under the leadership of the new Director General of the Commission, is aimed at addressing areas of infractions to broadcasting codes, ethics practices, and the need to return to standards.
Yes, we try to play by the book and all of it, but those who are foreign broadcasters...
The conversation begins with a call on broadcasters to be more abreast of the NBC codes in order to maintain neutrality and professionalism.
What we do have presently is that we have a code which gives us a standard, a fair standard. It's not a bureaucratic document. It's meant to be a middle path where we all measure our responses, our actions, our spoken words, or whatever we have that we're putting out there.
The call resonates with the broadcast media representatives who share their perspectives on some issues facing the evolving media landscape.
But the issue of renewal of licenses, I thought you would have also mentioned that, because this is about one of the countries where that is still being practiced. In the US, France, in Vietnam, I can remember a few countries. There's no cost for renewal of license, and the stations are bleeding now.
As it is today, there are very many young people who are in our various broadcast houses and especially in our newsrooms who do not even know anything about the broadcasting code that you'll be talking about.
Yeah. Collectively, it's a call to get back to the basis of professional broadcast standards, for which the DG says will constitute bulk of the Commission's review and reforms. He goes on by committing to lead a charge to clean up the nation's media space with a revised NBC code.
We're having a code review. It's going to be very robust. We're calling in not just traditional broadcast platforms, online platforms, those who operate on the tech space that also relay news and all. The stakeholders in broadcasting has significantly increased. It's not just us sitting here.
This stakeholder strategic meeting, which attracted practitioners from government and private broadcast organizations, is expected to produce a communique which will guide the industry ahead of the revised National Broadcast Code.
So let's now switch to the nation's capital, and Gloria Umezuoke is standing by to give us the latest from our Abuja studios. Hello, Gloria.
Thank you, Ayo. We begin in Abuja with more conversations on whether or not local governments should enjoy administrative and fiscal independence at the grassroots. And Senator Abdulaziz Yari, representing Zamfara West, has reiterated the call for a constitutional backing for local government autonomy, making the call at the official flag-off of the One Nigeria project. Senator Yari aligned with other speakers to argue that a truly autonomous local government system is the only sustainable path to security and development for the country. Our Oboyeni reports.
Members of the National Association of Elected Local Government Chairmen and Algon Emeritus are here in the nation's capital for the official flag-off of the One Nigeria project.
The Royal Father of the Day.
The project with the theme, One Nigeria, One Destiny, Unity and Diversity, aims to strengthen governance at the local level.
The problem is, to my understanding as at that time, is a government closer to people without funding protocol and security are going to be there. Government, underline this one, government closer to people, they're supposed to have enough funding. Government closer to people, they are supposed to have a protocol. Government closer to people, they are supposed to be a security. But in the local government, where I came from, my experience, I don't even know whether it still exists that way, how local government chairmen work, equal or excellent, to tackle all this mess we are in today. We have to pull back there and correct it.
In their goodwill messages, some of the special guests call for a collective approach to achieving local government autonomy.
You can't do security without taking people who are close to the people who are suffering. You can't do security if you don't provide money to the local government chairman. The president has done his bit.
The only way Nigeria can develop is for us to go back to the local government system. And I want to use this forum, this opportunity, to advocate for more funding for local governments. More funding for local governments.
If local governments, the 774 local governments are funded very well, I can tell you that development will be swift in this country. I can tell you that the security issues we are talking about in this country will be addressed.
The federal government have consistently remitted monies to local government, enough to effect development. I want to appeal to our governors, 36 governors, to ensure that this money gets to the local government so that there will be effective development.
The One Nigeria project is set to launch across the country in the first and second quarter of 2026. Daily Omoyeni, Channels Television News.
In Oyo, the state government says it remains committed to supporting inclusive economic growth with industrialization through integrated agribusiness across the state. Governor Seyi Makinde noted that all enablers of effective collaboration with interconnectivity shall be made accessible in a sustainable environment for investors. He made the pledge at the 2026 edition of the Oyo State International Agribusiness Summit. Our correspondent, Bukola Oriowo, reports.
It's the 2025 edition of the Oyo State International Agribusiness Summit, which aims to consolidate on the gains of the Governor Seyi Makinde's administration in agribusiness for over 6 years.
His Excellency, Governor Seyi Makinde, I think he deserves a better round of applause.
Governor Makinde notes that the core areas of comparative advantage of the state, with vast arable land, among others, encouraged the huge investment in agriculture beyond subsistence to prosperity.
For inclusive economic growth through agribusiness, we definitely will have to industrialize. The vision has remained consistent to move Oyo State from potential to productivity, and also from productivity to prosperity.
For the Oyo State Agribusiness Development Agency, OISADA, there are plenty of opportunities for industrial and economic growth opening up in the state.
We are aligning with several regional and global trade instruments that will allow access for our agribusiness industrialists to trade globally. The mission to explore our agricultural industrialization can propel Oyo State to a ₦1 trillion economy. The answer lies with many of us here.
Other speakers at the event expressed excitement at the potentials of agribusiness investment across the state.
Lagos-Ibadan is one of the key corridors for us. We have Danish companies active here. We have APM terminals who have their dry port up here. We engage both healthcare and agriculture partners because that's really where it comes together.
The Gate Foundation approached me. They said, we want to industrialize cassava, and we want to put $400 million to industrialize cassava in Nigeria. And one of the things I said, for this to happen, we have to create a cassava chamber of commerce and create that cassava chamber of commerce here in Oyo State.
Governor Makinde was later joined by other dignitaries to unveil the Grown in Oyo State trademark to the world.
So when you see this, it's a seal of quality from Oyo State. Thank you and God bless you.
Panel discussions on the integration of Oyo State into the global agribusiness trade framework and a tour of the exhibition by the Oyo State Agri-Development Agency wraps up the first session of the Impactful Summit. Bukola Oriowo, Channels Television News.
Well, still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's economic plans for 2026 take shape as Federal Executive Council approves budget targeting ambitious 4.7% GDP growth. And that's in business news. Join us again. Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. We turn attention now to the oil and gas sector at a time when Nigeria is pushing for stronger local capacity. Stakeholders say the results are finally becoming visible. at the 14th Practical Nigerian Content Forum in Yenagoa. The nation's major oil and gas players, policymakers, regulators, investors and operators all assembled under one roof, reviewing the progress Nigeria has made and unveiling new tools to strengthen indigenous capacity.
Players across the energy value chain converged on the Nigerian Content Tower in Yenagoa, Bayelsa for the 14th Practical Nigerian Content Forum, an annual gathering that showcases how far the country has come in deepening local participation and attracting investment. This year, the Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board announced what many industry watchers describe as a bold step.
We have concluded an arrangement to establish the $100 million equity investment scheme in partnership with Bank of Industry. This is a new product in our Nigeria Content Intervention Fund.
The signing ceremony immediately followed, formalizing the equity investment scheme between NCDMB and the Bank of Industry.
Quite a number of them have been repaying.
Lawmakers reaffirmed legislative backing for strict compliance with the Nigerian Content Act.
Our goal is to make sure the law is respected by everyone and that both Nigeria and the operators can thrive in a fair, well-regulated environment.
Federal government representatives emphasized that local content has moved beyond policy. It is now a national economic pillar.
We must continue strengthening local capacity across fabrications, engineering, technology services, manufacturing, and components, and research as well as development.
As government, we are committed to supporting, Nigerian content. We are committed to supporting industry players to continue to grow their capacity and play their role in the energy mix that we need in Nigeria. But everything must be done responsibly.
While the secretary to the Bayelsa State government, who represented the governor, challenged industry players to link investment with skills development, research collaboration, and sustained capacity building.
Do not be content with subcontracting when you can co-create value. This forum is practical by design. Let us produce concrete outreach, a succinct action plan, clear timelines, accountable partnership, and measurable milestones. Let our deliberations lead not only to resolutions, but to remedy and to results.
The forum also featured an exhibition showcasing cutting-edge innovations across the oil and gas value chain.
Back to Abuja, the Chief Executive Officer of Junior Achievement Africa, Mrs. Simi Nwogogo, is advocating the need for a solution-based entrepreneurship training for high school children in Africa as a viable alternative to bridging the gap between certification and employment. The advocacy for entrepreneurship training is at the core of ongoing activities to mark the 15th edition of the Junior Achievement Africa Award in Abuja. The Junior Achievement Africa competition is a significant platform to help young people showcase their skills, innovate, and inspire others to think of solutions to contemporary challenges.
This press conference heralds the 15th edition of the Junior Achievement Africa Award, an annual competition that helps young people to innovate and create solutions for Africa's challenges.
Thinking about that and discussing the critical thinkings.
This year, students from 9 African countries, including Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, Tanzania, and Zimbabwe, are participating, and the focus is on empowering young entrepreneurs to drive positive change in their communities.
We believe that entrepreneurship education is critical to solving that problem. We need to equip young people not to be job seekers, but to be job creators, to be the ones who are seeing the solutions, who are starting companies and innovative social enterprises to solve the problem and hire people as well, create jobs, improve livelihoods.
In the last 3 years, J Africa has deployed over $1 billion globally, training young people to solving contemporary challenges, including unemployment.
the governments or the current organizations are not enough to give a living to everybody. And so as much as we see jobs as very scarce, I think we've made it that way. But with this generation, we can now give the opportunity to the students to create the businesses.
Since its inception, over 2 million African youth have been impacted, providing them with essential skills in financial literacy, work readiness, and entrepreneurship.
Tracking the data is very important for many reasons. It's important to our partners. They care about it. It's important to our staff. We've raised and deployed as an organization in the last 3 years globally over $1 billion all over the world. So we track the impact data very carefully. We do 3 types of impact studies. One is called predictive analytics. Another one is a pre and post study. And the third is alumni tracking studies. And collectively, when you use the data from all 3 of them, you can actually draw conclusions on return on investment.
Winners who emerge from this year's edition will not only receive cash prizes and awards, they will also have a chance to represent Africa at the De La Vega Global Entrepreneurship Award Competition.
And that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Ayo, for more on the news at 10.
Thank you so much, Gloria. The National Assembly has been asked by the organized private sector of Nigeria to withdraw the proposed amendment to the Customs, Excise and Tariff Bill. The group, in a statement, said that the current draft of the bill is misaligned with the federal government's fiscal reform direction and contains several legal and administrative gaps. According to the group, given that the beverage industry falls among the non-oil revenue contributors, passing the bill into law could undermine the administration's ease of doing business objectives at such a sensitive economic period. The statement further says the group is faulting the National Assembly for advancing the bills without coordination with the Ministry of Finance, the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, the FAC, and other responsible institutions, noting that the bill contradicts the President's emphasis on stability, predictability, simplicity, and non-disruptive tax reform. The organized private sector of Nigeria is comprised of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, the National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, and the National Association of Small-Scale Industrialists.
In implementation of fiscal policy measures of government, we respectfully seek for the understanding and support of this distinguished committee to allow Mr. President to continue to exercise flexibility under Section 13(1)(a) to D of the Customs Excise Tariff Act as passed by law to determine fiscal policy measures of government. We also appeal for the repeal of the amendments to the first schedule of the Customs Excise Tariff Act under the Finance Act 2020 on the duty rates on vehicles. This has impacted negatively on the National Automotive Industrial Development Plan, the earmarking of Federation account revenues, that is excise from sugar sweetened beverages, should be carried out administratively for flexibility after extensive and wide consultations and engagement with relevant stakeholders.
Time now for some business news with Will Ebon.
Thank you, Ayotunde. The Federal Executive Council has approved the 2026 to 2028 medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper for the submission to the National Assembly. Now, key parameters for the 2026 budget include a target oil production of 2.06 million barrels per day with a budget benchmark of 1.84 million barrels daily. The government is also pegging the oil price at $64.85 per barrel and the exchange rate at 1,512 naira to the dollar. The budget framework projects Nigeria's GDP to grow by 4.68% next year, reflecting optimism about the country's economic performance. Meanwhile, Nigeria's business environment continued its expansion in late 2025, according to the NESG Business Confidence Monitor, a joint report by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group and Stanbic IBTC. The Business Performance Index rose to 113.3 points in November, up from 111.3 in October and 97.3 a year earlier, marking 11 months of steady improvement. Trade led the momentum, surging to 186.5 points. All key sectors also remain in expansion territory, with non-manufacturing at 117, manufacturing at 114.2, services at 105.8, and agriculture at 103.3 points. Checking the financial sector, the Central Bank of Nigeria has raised cash withdrawal limits across all channels, increasing weekly withdrawals to 500,000 naira for individuals and 5 million naira for corporates. In a circular released on Tuesday, the CBN also set daily ATM withdrawals at 100,000 naira within a total weekly cap of 500,000 naira, a clear shift away from the tighter cash restrictions of the previous administration. However, the bank maintained the limit on over-the-counter cashment of third-party checks at 100,000 naira. Meanwhile, currency outside banks rose to 4.65 trillion naira in October as Nigerians' appetite for fiscal cash continued to grow. Fresh numbers from the central bank show an increase of 181.7 billion naira, marking the second straight monthly rise. Currency in circulation also picked up, hitting 5.06 trillion naira, up by 108 billion naira from September. And this reverses the decline seen earlier between June and August. Now, in the equity space, the Nigerian exchange, that's the NGX, has launched commercial paper listings after the SEC approval, boosting the short-term debt market. The platform allows corporates to raise funds outside banks while investors gain more transparency and liquidity. NGX says the move strengthens the capital market and expands its full range of assets, from equities to short-term debts. And from that, we head to the domestic equities market and see the performance for today sustain the positive momentum for the second day of this week. Ini John Mekwa has the details.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the stock market report. Well, I guess we can safely say it wasn't a dead cat bounce yesterday, because we see that green sentiment flowing over to the close of trade today. Today, it wasn't so fantastic as it was yesterday, but 252 billion naira was added to the market cap. So we're still around 92 trillion naira, and the all share is in the green, 0.27%. We hit the 147,000 level at intraday, and that has been sustained to the close of trade. The figures mainly drove this at the close of today's trade. So from first hold call to UBA, GT Co, Access Co, and Zenith Bank, a lot of cherry picking on them today added some profit and gains on the share price, and so we see that driving the market. And of course, we expect, when we look at the sectors, the banking is up today more than 0.5%, 0.65%. Consumer goods also has similar sentiment. Guinness, out of nowhere, just comes in there on the mind of investors, as well as Nigerian breweries. And then for oil and gas, not so well, Aradel lost about 8 naira today, so that drove that counter down. But the good thing is that we're keeping the bull in our shores.
Thank you, Ni. Let's see the closing performance of other major global equities now. And that's it on business. I'm Will Ibang. It's back to you, Ayo.
Many thanks, Will. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced that the United States will restrict visas in response to the reported persecution of Christians in Nigeria. Writing on his X handle, Mr. Rubio said the State Department will deny visas to anyone who knowingly directs, funds, supports, or participates in violations of religious freedom. The policy targets Nigeria as well as other governments or individuals accused of persecuting people for their faith. The announcement comes amid earlier threats from U.S. President Donald Trump, who suggested possible military action in Nigeria over attacks on Christians. U.S. officials have since emphasized alternative measures, including security cooperation with Nigeria and the potential for targeted sanctions. Mr. Rubio stressed that the visa restrictions are part of decisive action against atrocities and violence toward religious minorities worldwide. Simon Pusey is next with our international news in Around the World in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5.
So pleased to see you.
The Kremlin says it's wrong to suggest Vladimir Putin rejected US proposals for peace in Ukraine after talks with US negotiators in Moscow. Russian officials say the meeting was constructive, but no compromise had been reached over territorial concessions for Ukraine. Elsewhere, President Volodymyr Zelensky says his aides are preparing for their own meeting with Trump's envoys in the US. It comes as NATO foreign ministers are meeting in Brussels to discuss Ukraine as well as defense issues. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump says he does not want Somali immigrants in the US, telling reporters they should go back to where they came from and their country is no good for a reason. His disparaging comments came as immigration authorities were reported to be planning an enforcement operation in Minnesota's large Somali community.
Somalians ripped off that state for billions of dollars, billions, every year, billions of dollars. And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country.
Kenya's parliament has accused British soldiers of decades of sexual abuse, killings, human rights violations and environmental destruction while training in the country. The report detailed harrowing testimony from communities in Laikipia and Samburu counties near the military training bases. The British soldiers are accused of evading accountability by refusing to cooperate with the parliamentary investigation. Malaysian authorities have said the search for the wreckage of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 will resume on the 30th of December, over a decade after the aircraft with 239 people on board vanished. This fresh search, which will run for 55 days, had begun in March but was suspended shortly after because of poor weather conditions. Exploration firm Ocean Infinity is leading the current search under a no-find, no-fee arrangement. Flight MH370, a Boeing 777, disappeared in 2014 while travelling from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing and sparked the largest search in aviation history. Prada has announced it has acquired Versace, bringing two major Italian luxury fashion houses under one roof. The $1.38 billion deal is well below the roughly $2 billion that Versace's former parent company, Capri Holdings, paid for the branch in 2018. The acquisition expands Prada's portfolio of designer brands, including Miu Miu, as it seeks to compete with rivals, including French conglomerate LVMH, which owns Dior and Fendi, in addition to Louis Vuitton. A driver has been hoisted to safety after dangling for hours off a bridge in West Virginia, where early winter storms have brought rain and snow. The tractor-trailer had earlier lost control on an icy bridge road, causing the cab of the truck to veer off the bridge. Local fire and rescue teams set up a crane to winch the man from the cab. No one was injured during the incident. And staff at a Virginia liquor store got a shock on Saturday when they came into work to find the store had been broken into by a very intoxicated raccoon. The so-called masked bandit was found passed out in the bathroom between the toilet and the bin, having helped himself to some bottom-shelf spirits. It's thought the animal had fallen through one of the ceiling tiles before, as one of the store members described, it went on a full-blown rampage, drinking everything.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. We begin with the English Premier League and the results of the matches just played. Mikel Merino and Bukayo Saka scored as Arsenal beat Brentford to restore their 5-point lead at the top of the table. Ollie Watkins scored twice as Aston Villa fought back from 2 behind to beat Brighton 4-3 in a 7-goal thriller at the American Express Stadium. Crystal Palace bounced back from back-to-back defeats to edge past Premier League strugglers Burnley 1-0 at Turf Moor. Igor Jesus' first league goal condemned winless Wolves to another defeat as Nottingham Forest edged the drab game 1-0 at the Molino Stadium. European football governing body UEFA have announced that Germany will host the Women's 2029 European Championships, where England will be the 2-time defending champions. Germany, the record 8-time winners of the Euros, beat off competition from Poland and a joint Sweden-Denmark bid, and will host the tournament for the 3rd time, just 5 years after doing so for the men's Euros. It's a measure of compensation for Germany, who missed out on hosting the 2027 Women's World Cup when FIFA picked Brazil instead. To boxing now, Alexander Usyk will be permitted to make a voluntary defense of his WBC heavyweight world championships that could be against Deontay Wilder. Usyk is undefeated but no longer the undisputed heavyweight world champion after vacating the WBO championship that he has held since 2021 when he first defeated Anthony Joshua. The Ukrainian star remains the unified WBC, WBA, and IBF heavyweight champion and sought permission to make a voluntary defense of the WBC belt. To rugby now, and 3rd-ranked England are drawn in Pool F and will go up against their local rivals, Wales, Tonga, and Zimbabwe for the Rugby World Cup. Ireland, who crashed to both South Africa and New Zealand last month, top Pool D with Scotland, Uruguay, and Portugal. France, 2-time runners-up, headline Pool E with Japan, the USA, and Samoa, while Argentina are in Pool C and face Fiji, Spain, and Canada. And that's it on Sports News. It's back to Aya for the rest of the news at 10.
And the main news again. The Senate today confirmed the immediate past Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, as the new Minister of Defense. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun, and you have a good night.